You are watching the LA Times envelope.
The LA Times envelope, right, because that's the thing.
LA Times is?
The LA Times. You can see me thinking, I looked up.
The LA Times envelope comedy roundtable without a cue card. How about that? Right?
Hello, I'm Lorraine Ollie from the Los Angeles Times, and I want to welcome you all. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Lorraine.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Janelle.
Good.
Delroy.
Quite well.
Delroy.
What a
Yes.
lovely congenial
Nice
bunch.
and normal.
Hi, Jessica.
Hello. Hello, Adam.
Phil, how are you? Great.
Good. Janelle, Molly, Delroy, Anthony.
Adam, how are you? I'm fine. Great.
How are you?
You're good.
Are we done with the greetings?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I would just like to jump right in here with, Anthony, can we start with you?
Sure.
So what kind of misconceptions do people have of you based on the character that you play? Let's just say in Barry.
Right. I think probably the biggest misconception is that I'm not a Chechen mobster. Truly, people are baffled as soon as I start speaking in my normal voice.
Oh, it's hysterical.
They look at me and they're like, you're not Russian, you're not Chechen. And it's almost like a disappointment too. They're mildly disappointed to learn that I'm from Massachusetts. I have like no flavor of an accent at all. So then they're like, okay, do the voice. And I always do, because and I'm a people pleaser, and that's another, thing that I have in common with NoHo Hank.
Yeah. Who else feels like Scrooge McDuck right now? Wow. Guys, what do you think? Should we take a selfie?
Oh, yeah, selfie.
Yeah, let's go. Come on.
Selfie.
Everyone get in.
Absolutely.
Okay, come on.
Get in.
Here we go. All right. Ready? Everyone say, Sand Pirates! Sand Pirates!
I'm not a criminal, and I do not run a criminal enterprise.
Okay.
Just saying it now.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I was
the
pretty
LA
stressed
Times.
when I met you. Pretty stressed.
I know, I get it, but yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Okay. And anyone else jump in here about, I would want to ask, because Janelle of Ava from Abbott Elementary, she is the MVP of one-liners, so.
I guess a misconception about me is I am not always on like she is. I am mostly off. So, and her like insatiable quest for fame and social media savvy and all of those things, I don't like taking pictures or selfies or any of those things, and I'm pretty introverted. So it's, she is not, so she's like this big ringmaster type of character, and so that's what people want when they meet me. Like, I'm not on the way to the nightclub or, or any of the things that Ava's famous for. So yeah, that's one of the hugest misconceptions about me and that character. But that's why it's fun to play her. It's like, damn, genetics are wild. You're cool, and you would beat my ass, wouldn't you? Putting on a whole new personality.
Yeah. Wow. And how about you, Phil? So when people meet you, do they think that you're gonna be like your Ted Lasso character, Jamie Tart, and be really good at soccer, or football, as you call it?
They expect me to be really good at football, which is terrible for my five-a-side game because people pick me for their side and then you're like, you suck. But at the end of a game once, I was like, we've just been beaten like 8-0, and this guy at the other team was like comes skipping over and he's like, hey man, didn't you play Jamie Tart in Ted Lasso? And I'm like,
Are you like legitimately bad?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Fine enough that like they could edit around it, and no, like I really enjoy playing and I play quite a lot. But there were players that were on the team who kind of like, I don't know, when they were the sort of the football ambassador of the team, where you're like, how do you do this skill?
Yeah.
And There would be people that you go to for that. Just as you would, there would be other times on TED where, or to give it its full title, Ted Lasso, for the uninitiated. The humour was quite different. I know this isn't quite the question, but the humour was different from the sort of British humour stuff that I'd done before. And so there'd be people, I'd go to Brendan Hunt or go to Joe Kelly, who's one of the creators, or go to Jason Sudeikis as well, and say, like, would you say this? Because I don't, what's the beat of this? What's the, and so, that was not the answer to your question, but
no, that's
fascinating. Was the ability to play soccer a prerequisite for being cast in the work?
Fortunately not. I mean, amazingly, they just asked in the audition if I'm good at football, and I was like, yeah.
I know we're all excited to have us here. Yeah, I get that, but I know a lot of players like him, and they're all just self-absorbed glory hunters who only care about themselves.
Jamie, don't you think that coming from you, that's a little bit ironic?
But there were some players or some actors who had to send in a video of them playing. Just to show that you're sort of like football literate. Yeah. And there was one actor, Billy Harris, who plays Colin, and he says the story of his nan was filming him trying to do this like really stupidly convoluted trick, and it's like the 50th time, and she's just there like, Christ, Billy, are we doing this again? And he's like, come on, Nan, let's do it.
Along the lines of you saying, some of the people in Ted Lasso had to send in videos of them playing. Did you, for Party Down, have to like send in a video of you doing catering, perhaps for shrinking, being a shrink?
The method.
Yes, please.
I had to prove I could hand someone a canapé. No, I honestly, when we made the original show back in when we started 2008, 2009, I knew that Henry, my character, was the bartender of the catering group. So I just watched, rewatched a bunch of Cheers to watch, because I don't know how to really make drinks, but also I didn't know how bartenders fill the time. So I watched Ted Danson, and he's, first of all, just incredible on that show. But then also the way he fills his time, he's always doing something on that show. He's always cutting up a lemon, throwing a cherry in his mouth, throwing a napkin into the garbage. He's filling up all of his time. So if you watch Party Down and keep that in mind, I'm always cutting stuff or arranging napkins stuff just because Ted Danson did. 100% the only reason I'm doing any of that.
That's great. I have that. I worked with Paul Reiser, and he and Helen Hunt were they love activities on Mad About You, if you notice. So I'm so impressed with that because I'm not good at that at all, but I'm always impressed with somebody that will add putting on a watch in a scene and taking a sip of water, and it gives me the giggles.
Because it's pretend,
it's pretend, and it's hard. I always notice when people do it, like Connie Britton in The White Lotus, when she's talking and she does a scene where she's putting on sunscreen while she's talking to her daughter, spray, 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 doing the lines, and I just love activities in acting because it makes the acting performance seem. It makes it seem natural, but I think it's very hard.
It is.
Activities. So when I do activities, I'm like, Helen Hunt, activities. I always say that on set. I'm being like Helen Hunt.
Do I have a favorite comedic phrase in the history of television? I don't know, actually, but I've been saying lately, and this has nothing to do with TV, I've been going, somebody stop me. I've been doing that a lot, and that's from The Mask, which unfortunately was not a TV show, but it is Jim Carrey going, somebody stop me.
There's always what are you talking about, Willis? And I love that one, mostly because I like the idea that we never found out what Willis was talking about.
So Jessica in Shrinking and Delroy in Unprisoned, you're both mining these really dark places. I mean, how do you pull comedy out of that? How do you make that funny?
I just think everything is so everything is so sad, and it's like all the time. You could really stop and be like, this is really sad. Even when you laugh, you're laughing spontaneously and the moment is almost over. Like even laughing can be sad. And so I really like, especially with Shrinking, and that was very clear early on when they were talking about the show with me, is that we were gonna straddle this line between something really sad and really funny. And that to me, as an actor, it's like having done comedy and then also being interested in drama is just like a real sweet spot. So I felt really lucky to be able to do this show and explore something so profoundly sad and grieving. But because it's something, you know, everyone's doing is grieving. You're always grieving. But I found like even when I've been at a funeral or when people are dying, there are still really funny things that happen around that time. Like anytime something really traumatic is happening, there's also something really funny. There's like somebody's crying over the casket. Somebody's crying over the casket, or there's like this really intense breakup scene, and it's like two princes is playing, you know, in the restaurant, you know, but like you're like there's something always really funny going
Weeping
on.
to two princes.
Yeah, and that happens. Like there's never going to be the right music playing at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I felt really lucky to be able to play the character of Gabby, who's always sort of on this sort of, she's more of a lighter character.
That painting is me. Muse on a couch is me. And Liz, a little help, please.
I got you.
Boom, a freckle. Boom, that freckle, me. Freckle here, freckle there.
Approaching Shrinking, they knew they wanted to kind of straddle this line, and with Gabby, she needed to balance out Harrison Ford's character, his character is Parkinson's, and Jason Segel's character, his character is grieving the loss of his wife. And so these three people work together, and so they needed Gabby to kind of be sort of that sort of bouncy character. And so we kind of found a nice world for her on the show, which was fun, which is pretty sad. So
and it did it so. I remember watching it, feeling like it would never get to a point when it would become too heavy that it would no longer be fun. It was always serving that. It was always like had a mission to be like, we're still gonna address all of these really huge, horrible issues, but we're gonna do it with a twinkle in the eye, with like tongue in the cheek. It's like, and it hit that mission so successfully throughout that it just meant, it was.
I mean, not to talk about our same employer, but like that's the Bill Lawrence sort of, Brett Goldstein also, and Jason Segel, all of them. We love them. We love them. But that's sort of their kind of like sweetie boy wheelhouse, I feel like, which is really fun.
Yeah. And, you know, we were talking about this a little earlier, but in Unprisoned, your character Edwin is just out of jail, just out of prison, right? And he's trying to acclimate back into society. And this is a comedy, yes, but I was really surprised at how moved I was by this, because capturing that experience of trying to acclimate, trying to get back in with the family, we don't see that often on television, particularly in a comedy.
We actually call it Kerry Washington. When we were initially speaking, she referred to it as a dramedy, right? That we would be kind of straddling this line between drama and comedy. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and all of the interviews that I've done in which that aspect is brought up, I am so thankful for the writer, for Tracy McMillan. It is Tracy's story. The Unprisoned is inspired by Tracy's story. And the acuity of the writing, the fact that I don't have to think about, is this too heavy? Is it comedic? I just have to, this is gonna sound really highfalutin, but it's just play the truth of the moment. Just play the truth of the moment that's in the writing. And that has served us, all of us, knock on wood.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's everybody.
I always do that.
Oh, no.
That's what's been.
I refuse. Not for you, right?
You better knock wood, girl.
We get one.
I don't like it with the crowd.
That's where the meat of the work has been. And what's been gratifying is exactly what you said, which is that audiences have found it moving. And that's been really, really gratifying.
Wasn't Martin Luther King around here? You ever go to a march?
My mom always had to work.
I remember when they killed him, though.
Whoa.
Yeah, man. The way that brother talked. Make you really believe you could have all the things he said you could have.
I just thought it was interesting that you said Barry and drinking, and I feel like Abbott is a very serious subject matter.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
It's true. You're right. Which is underfunded elementary school children who don't have the resources that they need, or teachers, or much of anything. So I think that's why it's amazing that our show is so funny, and that's why my character pretty much exists. Like, I'm a joke machine to get people out of the doldrums of, not doldrums, but the seriousness of what we're trying to tackle. So I think that to the writers that...
So now you're just knocking.
Yeah, to the writers that people may maybe even forget that, you know?
Yeah.
That's what we're tackling.
Step 1, write the date on the board. Get my hands all chalky? Nope. Step 2, turn on the lights. Now, what kind of idiot wouldn't immediately turn on the... Oh, yeah. I was just about to do that. Now, I was the last one in here, so that was on y'all.
You don't lead with that, right? Meaning, you don't lead with the thought
Well,
that
I don't
this is
think
a really serious subject matter.
Yeah, I don't think Quinta, the creator, ever would categorize it as a comedy. I mean, as a dramedy or straddling the line or anything. But that is what the show is about, which is on its face a very serious topic.
Absolutely.
And we've managed to make it humorous in between. And we have very serious moments as well. But in between those moments, we've managed to make it
I learned that.
super funny.
Yeah, super funny. I learned that when I was on The Daily Show for a while. It was like Jon Stewart's kind of philosophy is like, this is like veggies, but people think it's dessert. You know, it's like we're gonna. And then there was a lot of notes when I was on that of like, don't make it. You know, it doesn't need to be too serious. Doesn't need to be. People will get the message if you're moving around it without, you know, when it gets too on the nose. Yeah, heavy-handed. That's always the line. You don't want it to.
Well, people reject that.
Attention.
Right.
Oh my God. My favorite comedy show is the Martin Lawrence Show, and he has so many good catchphrases. Not only him, but every character on there. When Gina is trying to impress her ex-boyfriend, and they bring the potatoes to the table, and she says, "Ooh, you finally brought my potato skins."
And the other two, Pat could have potentially been an unlikable character. She could have potentially been a very self-centered. I mean, the plot is, you know, the younger YouTube star son of Pat's blowing up the other two older siblings. They're the other two. Mm-hmm. Pat becomes a talk show host. And she could have come off as like a kind of unlikable, selfish parent, but she's not. There's something, so how do you tackle a role that could potentially be an unlikable character and kind of ingratiate them to people?
Well, it's actually so really, the writing is so good, and I feel like Chris and Sarah are really good at writing for me. So I really relate to the character, because Pat, at the end of the day, she cares so much about her family, and she's ambitious. She's an Ohio mom coming to New York City with big dreams for her son to be the next pop superstar and her two other children. But at the end of the day, she cares so much about her family and wanting to be with her kids, so it has so much heart.
Oh, yes, okay. When it comes to snacks, there's nothing my family and I love more than at Reese's Pieces. And 5, 4...
What is happening? Hi, Pat. Just dropping off some RP swag since we heard you're a fan.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I found that it was really
Positive, Heart.
positive.
It's all positive.
Yeah.
So that's the interesting thing
Yeah.
in terms of an actor getting their hands on a piece of material that you don't think, I think, one does not think about the potential unlikability.
Yeah.
One thinks about the positive. What is this person going after? Your family.
Mm-hmm.
And you want the best for your family.
Yes.
Right?
Favorite NoHo Hank line? I would probably say, let's see. You know, oh, come on, you guys are like Fleetwood Mac, okay? You break up, you get back together, you break up again, and then you come back together and you make a great album, like the greatest hits of Fleetwood Mac.
When you're going into these characters, like say there's Noho Hank or Ava or Edwin in Unprisoned, are you basing it on something like what are you thinking? Like, I don't know, was there an experience with a high school principal? Are you pulling that out of your head? How are you coming up with these, or Jamie?
Please. For me, it's a conglomeration of things. And I'd like to believe that there's this process of osmosis. From when I was preparing to do the work on Unprisoned, the first thing I did was I met with Trace's father. This character is inspired by Trace's dad. So he and I hung out. And we spent time, and he was very generous in terms of what he shared with me about his life. I then connected with a few organizations that dealt with that have as their clients formerly incarcerated people. And I was just gathering, I was just writing it down, I was recording, and I wanted to believe that by osmosis, this process was, I was educating myself about that world, and then putting that in the hopper of my own, whatever my own creative process is, began then the process of bringing Edwin to life. That's how it was for me.
Okay.
Oh. That's so interesting.
I don't remember any principals at all. So, again, I was just, when I read it, it's like so unlike me, except for the hilarious part. I was just really just like, oh, what would I be if I was somebody that wanted to be on camera and this like person and I feel like it's not a new phenomenon of people wanting to be famous, but there is a new phenomenon of just like regular people who aren't in the business who are like, I want to be famous, and we see them on social media and stuff, and that's really what I'm doing. Those people that's like, hi, and it's weird, and but then also funny.
The job of being a principal is almost
it's
like
that secondary. It's her.
Great.
And I feel like that's a thing that people forget as the show goes on. The reason this is being filmed is because she wants to be famous. It has nothing to do with the students or anything. She brought these cameras in. See, you forgot. Like
I did.
Is that my shirt? Oh, this? I got it off a popular Depop page.
At Ava Flav with 10 A's.
Oh my God, that's you? I love your clothes.
Thank you.
And that's why she's so on, because she knows the cameras are there and this is her show.
Well, I'd say that it's without a shadow of a doubt that the best line ever uttered on television is, I am the one who knocks, in Breaking Bad.
Noho Hank is so Noho Hank. I don't know, who is he? Where did he come from?
Well, I mean, the way it was written in the script was that he was just described as a very polite gangster, just well-meaning and very like a gracious host. And Bill had actually written the character because he had to get his computer fixed, and so he went to the Genius Bar at Apple, and there was a guy in like a little polo, and he was like, "Hi, hey, can I help you?" Okay, and he was just very alert, present, and helpful, and so that was the kind of how he was born on the page. But then when I started to mess around with him, I was just, I don't know. I like to pull things from random places. So Jean-Claude Van Damme and some 80s action movies was a huge inspiration. Just like the kind of like coolness factor, hands on the hips, and just this like, he's like trying to be so suave in this way. And I was like, oh yeah, I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, and I don't know. Then it just kind of started to take on a life of its own, you know. And once you spend more time doing it, you just start to kind of react. And at that point, it's just really fun. It's really fun going to work. You build that character, and then you just let it go, you know.
I feel like Van Damme would be so happy to hear that.
Oh, totally.
And that like made me happy that I hope he sees it. I feel like he would be psyched.
I hope I honored him in my own way. Not making fun of him at all.
No,
Honoring.
I feel like it's 100%. Psyched.
And that thing of not making fun of them, like if there are real life people that you take, for my character was a footballer, and there are loads of different footballers. People ask me, is it inspired by? There's a guy called Jack Grealish who's very similar in tone, and I'm like, yeah, sort of, yes.
Jack Grealish is?
We know Jack Grealish. Guys, I need you all to know.
I'm a soccer fan.
Okay, you do?
Yeah.
Jack Grealish is the most handsome and he's the best. Lovely calves. Lovely calves. But he is this sort of, he's a kind of like ostentatious character. If he plays for your team, you love him. If he plays against him, you sort of like jeer him and hate him a bit.
Are you a Man City fan?
Not really, no.
Okay.
But I am a him fan. And it's done with huge love and admiration. That I don't want it to be like this guy who's a bit of a sort of, Jamie Tart, who's a bit of a doofus, whatever. I'm like, I took the parts of someone like Jack Grealish. And football is a very specific, weird sort of like life that they have. And using those little bits.
You thought I was the best?
Yeah. I mean, you still could be if you weren't such a prima donna.
Just call me a prima donna.
Yeah.
It's prima donna. Who the f says prima donna? What the f does that even mean?
It means before Madonna, female vocalists didn't have to work that hard.
Are you mad?
Taking someone from something totally unexpected is the really fun thing. And also, in the same way with Shrinking, on Barry, you guys did, and particularly for Noah Hank, you take the thing that is on the surface, a gangster, and then you just undermine it.
Yeah.
And so immediately it just becomes like, wow, that's mad.
Yeah.
That's such a fun and interesting and mad choice that you're just like, tell me more.
Yeah, you subvert expectations.
Yeah.
My favorite character to play on SNL was probably Mary Catherine Gallagher because that's closest to my heart. And it was written kind of like an exaggerated version of how I felt when I was little. So when I first got that on air, I was so happy and so many people related to it. They were like, I watched the show, my sister said that reminds her just of her, and Molly, oh my God. People really came out of the woodwork responding to it on the streets of New York, and the cameramen saying they had family members and cousins who all loved it, and so I felt great, like I was onto something.
So Adam, in Party Down, you play an outer work actor. Did you have to do a lot of research for that? Or is that
hard? Is that hard? What did you draw on?
That's the thing is when we started the show again, like back when it was originally on, like in 2009, all of us on the show felt the circumstances of these characters deeply because we were all like, had our faces pressed up against the glass of show business for a few years. All of us were having a bit of a tough time and really kind of got it. And the fact that we were on this network that wasn't quite known for making shows and we were their only show and people didn't really know about it kind of fed into that too. And it really, we were making the show in a bubble and even when we were on the air, people didn't know what it was. That didn't happen until it was canceled and years later. So while we were making it, we were like, no one is watching this. We couldn't even get it reviewed, but we loved it.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I did.
Maybe LA Times did review it. I don't know. But we loved doing it. And so we were just like doing it for ourselves and for each other and got so much out of it. So yeah, I think that as far as being an out-of-work actor, an actor on the wrong side of an embarrassing moment in a career.
I distinctly told your superior that waitstaff is not to interact with talent.
Right,
Wow.
yeah, of course. I'm sorry for interacting, ma'am.
Sure, that's not necessary. Henry and I, we used to work together. We're old friends.
Interesting. Great. Well, you got it.
Okay, anyway, great to see you.
We all felt it really deeply. It's why we all kind of connected with it and connected with each other, because we were right there alongside it.
Right. It's funny. It's such an iconic show. Like to think that nobody was. I remember it being like when I was in high school and I watched it.
Yeah.
And it was so good. But it was one of those like cool shows that in
Right.
high school all the cool kids watched. So you
Right.
watch like Arrested Development, you watch Party
Right.
Down.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
great.
it's like in that.
Well, I think people, when they discovered it, they discovered it themselves, and so there was like some ownership over it, which made people feel connected to it, which is great. And that's why we ended up being able to make more 13 years later, is because people dug it up and discovered it and liked it.
What was one point in your career where you thought, I've made it, I'm here, and you weren't even close?
Oh, that's funny. I hate when you have to like walk a carpet and then there's like, you can tell the photographer just kind of like doesn't want the photo.
Oh,
and you're like, it's fine. I don't want to be it either.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Wait, listen.
And then like Adam Sandler, like I did one recently where like, for some reason, Adam Sandler was like right after me in this press line. And they were just like, and then like, and then everyone was just like.
I've got, two. I'm at a junket in New York, right? So I get out of the limo, I get out of the car, I'm walking in, and a dude says, Mr. Lindo, can I get your photograph? I said, no, I gotta go. He said, but nobody else wants it, man. I'm the only one who wants it. True story. Another time, I'm going to Shakespeare in the Park. I'm going to Shakespeare in the Park, right? New York City, summertime. And I'm walking, and I think Sandra Bullock was in front of me, and click, and then somebody else, click. And I came along, and the brother said, oh, Mr. Lindo, can I get you? And I said, I gotta get, because I was running late, I gotta get in, man. And the photographer next to him said, he ain't.
Oh my
Swear to God.
Oh.
And I said, what'd you say? And the brother said, no, it wasn't me, man. I didn't say that. Swear to God.
That's
one more,
hysterical.
and then I'm done.
Yeah, this is.
So I will say this. Cameron, I did a film with Danny Boyle. It's called The Life Less Ordinary. Very few people saw the film. Coming out of the premiere screening, my lady and I came out. We were walking to the limo, and a couple of people took out. And then Cameron came out. Oh! That's when you know you're not a movie star.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh.
It was all about Cameron. I think maybe 1.5 photographers took my photograph when I came out. When Cameron came out, photographers appeared from everywhere.
I also find that I get.
No, go ahead.
Well, I just also find that I get mistaken for every other Black actress that's ever existed. So, like, I was doing press for Shrinking, and someone then had just come out. And people were like, we're walking out to go to the car, and they're like, "I love you," and I was like, "Thank you so much." They're like, "I think you're so funny. You're so good." Like, just so gross. I was like, "Thank you so much." They were like, "We love you on The Bear," and I was just like, "Oh, gosh, that's not me. That's not me." Or when I was on The Daily Show, people would think I was my friend Sashir, who was also on SNL, and they would call me Sashir.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
And they would call. Did you ever get?
No,
me.
You guys.
They would call Sashir me all the time. They'd be like, "You're so funny on SNL." You're like, but I am.
Can I say one thing about that? I think that's so much of the drive to have in show business. There has to be some hole, or you're trying to prove yourself, or like if you do this, then you'll be loved, or this or that. But I feel like personally, like, it's such an old game, and usually people that think you're not enough, it's their own thing. It's like some type of projection.
Yeah, totally.
And what I wanted to say was, I recently hosted SNL, and I felt courageous. I was scared because I was like, I don't know what people are expecting, and I've never been more nervous. But I read a review that was like a little critical, like this and that, like, meh. It was meh. And I was like,
real, man.
But what I want, thank you so much. But what I want to say is, what gives me the drive is I was like, my mom died when I was little, when I was 4, in a car accident. That gave me the drive to like prove it and make my mom come back from the dead. I was like, maybe my mom died when I was 4 because she was like, this little baby, meh. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm saying, don't we, some of it, you have that hole to give that drive to better, but I get like, I want to get over that.
I find,
does that make sense?
Yes.
It does make sense, but
Go ahead. No,
you
please.
first.
I love listening.
Well, here. Film is forever.
Yeah.
Film is forever. So you may not think I'm, and it may not make any difference to you that I did Malcolm X 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But West Indian Archie, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of Crooklyn. I'm proud of Clockers. I'm proud of all those things, and those things live. Whether or not whatever your opinion is of me, because film is forever, and I have proven. I've done good work consistently enough that no matter what you think, you know what, f*** you.
It's in
That's
the
the
work.
freedom.
It's in the
Yeah,
work.
it speaks
As
to
soon
work.
as you start to buy into other stuff of expectations,
buy into that.
expectations of where you are, where you should be, what is expected of you to do next, that next thing,
That's
that
right.
next thing.
It's a trap.
It is such a trap.
Absolutely.
And people want you, they want you, they want you. And then let's say you do something where you're like, you give them everything as a, like, let's say you're like Star Powers Rising and you do every single project. Then people do that turn and they're like, I don't want to see them anymore. I don't want to. So it's like keeping that medium. I find never believing when people like are hyping about you is better. Just staying in that medium and that you're not like just. It's like not riding that hype machine of like you're good, you're good, you're good, because you'll just
go to
your
work.
story
Just
that you're being told you're not whatever, and the Cameron comes out and everybody's like Cameron. I always think Cameron is like, get those cameras out of my face. So the flip side of that is
There's also
that's
that.
terrifying to
So
me
being
for
naked,
this to
that's
be
like a
happening.
whole other
you
level
know,
of
so-
fame.
Oh, I'm cursing again. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Get those bleeping cameras.
And you know what? Just so you know, your performance in Crooklyn is one of the great performances.
Oh my God.
And it's meant so much to me.
Thank you.
Ever since that movie came out, opening weekend, I was there, and it's meant the world to me ever since then. So all that other
Also, that's
All
how
that
I
other
feel about
it's-
Molly. Like you, like literally, I would watch you on Saturday Night Live and how fearless and physical you were. Okay, I'm tearing up a little bit, but you always give it 100%.
Thank you.
I can't believe you
And-
still read reviews, girl.
No, I know for that. It makes me so mad. But like you are one of the reasons why I do comedy because you
check
were
that out.
you were literally one of the first, especially when you were on. You were one of the first people that I watched that I thought like I watched it with my grandma. My grandma's no longer with us when I started doing comedy. She died, and I would go and she would babysit me, and she would let me stay up, and I would watch you, and I thought. You have always given it 100%, and you've been just like this very fearless, very funny person for a long time. And I just think
Yeah, man.
amazing.
Yeah, man.
And you're literally just phenomenal.
That makes
like,
me feel so good.
Thank you. Sorry,
It's
I
wild that somebody
I
can
just think
see
it's
someone host SNL
and just go
say,
mad.
man,
Like literally, like
you
jail.
could never.
But you're so important. You're just
so sweet.
yeah.
But isn't it weird that I'm saying what gave me the drive was a sad hole? Was like this, like, if I could just get famous enough and do flips and do that, then maybe my mom will come back and tell me I'm good. And I finally got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm healthy. I'm happy. I just want to be creative. It doesn't matter if I'm the best or number this or number that. I'm so lucky, and there's nobody living some perfect life that we're not living. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to embrace my life and where I am, and not let that perpetuate that having to prove yourself and going toward bad people to prove yourself or people who don't like you. I'm so sick of it.
Yeah.
So we're going to run out of time, but I just wanted to ask you really quickly, like, what is the last thing either in television or film, or it could be out on the street, I don't know, that made you laugh?
I mean, it wasn't on TV, but you guys have, I think, maybe a mechanic store that's called Jiffy Lube.
Yeah.
Why is that okay?
That's a lot coming from you because the UK.
Yeah. Okay, hit me with something better than Jiffy Lube. Whose idea was that? And I love the meeting. We're like, guys, we haven't got a lot of time. Has anyone got anything? Jiffy Lube. That is.
Yep, we gotta wrap
Okay,
it
we gotta
up.
take that.
Yeah.
It was mad.
You know, you think that's funny? Go inside. Hilarious. Yeah.
The door would go really.
This is so dumb, but I was
It
watching
could be Tucker Carlson.
I was
It could-
watching
yes.
Dateline last night, and there was a guy who was like obsessed with like Dungeons and Dragons, who was a murderer. But anyhow, they interviewed his girlfriend, and they said, "Do you think it's possible that your boyfriend killed this girl?" And this is not that funny, but it was Dateline. And he wears hats, and he was into Dungeons and Dragons. It did not seem like a killer, mind you, at all, but he was. And the girlfriend paused when they said, "Do you think in the interview, the police interview, the detective interview, do you think your boyfriend could have killed?" She paused. They said for 13 seconds, and then said, no, I don't think so. And I found that funny.
Not 13. The question seriously.
13 seconds.
Yeah.
And they said it on Dateline. They said she paused for 13 seconds.
I think we established the true comedies on Dateline, and I'm really glad we established that.
It's true.
And I want to thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Thanks for having us.
This is a good group. Probably my favorite catchphrase was from the Joyologist, and she's just very positive about life, and she says, I love it, I love it, I love it. That's my favorite, because it's very fun to say.
How was I, Janelle James, in elementary school? I was a book nerd. I still am, but you would always find me in the library in a book. That's not a Hollywood answer, that's facts.